Just a few months ago, I wanted to have this conversation when I got to know that our very favorite of many, legendary human being, I would say, Vivek sir was planning to start his work on the Puranas. And this also is a little shock to me because this also puts the fact of spirituality right in front of us, that how fleeting the life is. I just thought of it a few months ago, and now he decided to move on. This conversation is also a part of a tribute to him. You have written very beautifully in Sunday Guardian about who he was as an idea. Would you want to express yourself, the phenomenon, Vivek sir?
Yeah, sometimes one doesn't know what to say about Bibek Debroy, but let me try nonetheless. Well, he had begun his Purana project. He had done about 5 or 6 translations. But of course, it's a much larger project and it would have taken him another maybe 5, 7, maybe 10 years to complete everything, including the Mammoth Skanda Purana, which, will take a long time. Now, the question is that Bibek Debroy, of course, began out as a economist. How did he land up becoming a Sanskritist and doing all this work? Well, I think Bibek Debroy was one of those few people who were genuinely polymaths. I remember a time when Bibek Debroy essentially taught himself Russian and became so fluent he was able to talk to a visiting Russian delegation in fluent Russian. And then he was sent to Moscow for something, and he was able to speak to them in Russian, and he was entirely self-taught. And the Russians were really astonished by that. But he was that sort of a mind. I mean, he was really a mind of a different caliber. Also, the other great thing about Bibek Debroy was that he really began at a particular time in his life, around the time he was 50, take deep interest in the cultural roots of his own country and his own, himself, so to speak. And that brought him to the learning of Sanskrit. Bibek Debroy again was self-taught in Sanskrit. Now, how can anyone be self-taught in Sanskrit and then proceed to translate both the Ramayana and Mahabharata in their own lifetime? Is quite astonishing, because it was believed before Bibek Debroy did it that it was impossible for one human being to translate both the Ramayana and the Mahabharata in their one lifetime. And yet, Bibek Debroy not only did that, he also did the Bhagavad Gita. He did a bunch of the Puranas. He, of course, translated the Ashtavakra Gita, a book that I co-wrote with him, which was his last book. And he, of course, continued his work as the chair of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. He wrote on policy. He wrote on various aspects of economics. All of this was confined within one mind, and that is really astonishing, the sheer breadth and length of that mind. Bibek Debroy, to me at least, was almost like a parental figure to me. So it's been a moment of great personal loss for me. He and I were going to do a lot of work together. We had just announced that we will work on the Devi Gita, which would have been our next project. And then we were looking at a whole bunch of other projects. Um, and yet, none of this will now happen with him. Hopefully, I will be able to take forward some of his legacy in my own work. But really, he's a great loss. I mean, he was one of those, truly eclectic, eccentric genius minds. Somebody who, once they read something, never forgot. I mean, he was able to recite from his memory large tracts of the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the parts of the Puranas in Sanskrit fluently. So this was really a mind of a different caliber, and I really struggled to really do justice to what he was and what he was able to do. Suffice it to say that I in the article that you alluded to, I wrote 3 articles about him, but the third one that you mentioned, I spoke about him as the last Raj Rishi. India had a long ancient tradition of the Raj Rishis, who were really gurus or Raj gurus, who were essentially the hand of the king. They were the people who would advise the king, who would whisper in the ear of the king. and would give them sagacious advice. I think Bibek Debroy was the last of the Raj Rishis. I say in that article that Bibek Debroy knew everything and said nothing, which is absolutely true. He was, of course, an ultimate insider in government, but he never spoke about anything that he knew. And remember, despite of all of this, he continued to write a daily limerick, which again is astonishing. I mean, why he got interested in limericks, who knows? He was interested in lots and lots of things. But then he began to write a daily limerick, which was really amazing. So, I personally learned a lot from Vivek Debroy, and I wish he had been there at least, to finish his Puranas project. It would have really helped the country, of course, helped people like me to do more work with him. But really, he had a great contribution to India's civilization and India's, sense of self, so should I say. And his going away is a great, great loss to Indian civilization. There isn't another like him, and I really doubt whether anytime soon there's going to be someone like him again.